Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's edition of the Finance Rebel Show. My name is Kamari Ellis, and this is the Finance Rebel Show, like I just told you. Today, I just wanted to talk about a couple of things. Of course, the financial term of the day we're also going to talk about emergency savings or emergency funds. And actually, I don't even really like the term emergency funds. I call them opportunity funds because everybody looks at emergencies as a bad thing. Language is very important to me. So I look at it as it's an opportunity to either avoid a catastrophe or seize on an opportunity. So I call them opportunity funds. But, I don't want to be too rebellious and go against the grain. And so we're going to use the term emergency fund today. But if you hear me say opportunity fund, just know I'm talking about emergency fund. All right. So today's financial term of the day is something simple, right? Something real easy. It's expense, right? But what is an expense? It's an outflow of money to another person or organization, business, utility company, mortgage company, anything like that. Now, I just want to talk about different kinds of expenses because I think a lot of times this gets kind of overlooked, right? So there's roughly 4 different areas of expenses. So you have variable expenses, you have fixed expenses, you have intermittent expenses, and you have what's called discretionary expenses. So variable expenses are, things that are variable. They change from day to day, week to week, month to month, quarter to quarter, sometimes year to year. And they're typically things like your electric bill, water bill, any utilities. Now, utilities tend to go up and down because sometimes the prices change and also your usage change. But, gasoline that you put into your car could be another thing that's a variable expense. All right. Clothing could be a variable expense because usually people don't spend the same amount of money on clothing every month, every week. All right. They tend to buy as they need it. Right. Fixed expense, same thing. It's fixed every month. Your cable bill is typically fixed. Your mortgage is usually fixed. Your car payment or your car loan is usually fixed. All of those things are typically a fixed cost. Discretionary. Your discretionary expenses. Now, discretionary expenses is usually anything that's left over after you paid all your real bills, right? Now, people would kind of use their discretionary money to go out with, to go to the movies with, things like that. Now, when you're thinking about keeping control of your money, you want to know what's expenses are variable, what's expenses are fixed, what money you're spending out of your discretionary, and which ones are variable. It's very important because a lot of times things change. And you want to stay on top of that because if you're really serious about creating wealth, you want to know what your outflows are. Now, I'm not going to use the B word, also known as budget, but you should kind of have an idea of what your cash flow in and out, what it looks like. All right. So that is the financial term of the day, expenses. So I wanted to talk about creating an emergency fund. And if you remember the other day, I did a whole show on cash is king because I see a lot of people kind of talk about that out of context, so to speak. They give a lot of credence to credit. And so I remembered I had a conversation with a friend of mine about emergency funds, i.e. opportunity funds, and how they are not funding their emergency fund with cash. They are using their credit to serve as their emergency fund. All right. And so at various times in life, as you've heard me say before, you go through cycles, you go through various seasons, and different things will need to take place in order to maintain and survive and get through your day to day. But I would never, ever, ever recommend that your strategy for funding your emergency fund be using credit. Now, in full disclosure, I do have some clients that are in business, and I will suggest or advise to them that they take out a personal loan or yeah, a personal loan, a personal line of credit, or maybe even a credit card to kind of supplement their emergency fund. Now, what is an emergency fund? Again, emergency fund is for a rainy day. Emergency fund is for when the roof falls in and the insurance adjuster can't get out anytime soon. Emergency fund is when your car breaks down and you need to get it fixed. Emergency fund really is for an emergency. It shouldn't be used to just kind of go out and kiki and lollygag with your friends. It should be really set aside for when an emergency comes. There's a lot of different thoughts about that circulating. Some people say emergency funds are dumb. You can just invest your money. I think a lot of those people were kind of born with silver spoons in their mouth. But again, that's another conversation. But typically, that's what an emergency fund is for emergencies, right? And I advise people to have an emergency fund and to have a separate savings account, right? So, yes, technically, the emergency fund / opportunity fund is savings, but I don't look at it as savings. I look at it for things that are truly an emergency. And typically, I tell people to start with $1,000 in cash, fund it with $1,000. You might not be able to do that all at once. You might have to do it $5 at a time, $25 at a time, $50 at a time, but kind of put that money aside. And so if you have $1,000 to put in there, that's great. But again, I'm talking to my friend, and they said that they're going to use credit to serve as their emergency fund and use their cash to pay down their debt. Some may say that's a good idea. Some may say that's a bad idea. I think initially it's a bad idea. Usually the cycle of debt that so many Americans are in is typically due to them not, one, having financial discipline, and two, not having enough cash on hand to pay for purchases that are discretionary, right? Usually a lot of times they're needed. If you look at a lot of, well, not you, but I typically see a lot of the debts that are occurring. Therefore, I don't want to be judgmental, but they're for nonsensical things, whether it be clothing, jewelry, vacation, but they're not things that they typically need. They're not things that are going to kind of help them advance in life. And they're really things that really have you living above their means or have them living above their means. All right. And then what happens is an emergency happens and they have to, dig deeper into the credit cards. Some folks do payday loans, which is like modern day loan sharking because the interest rates are astronomical. And actually, a lot of these credit card rates are astronomical as well. But what happens is they dig themselves further into debt. And that debt, again, has an interest rate. And so if your interest rate, let's say 20%. So for every $100 you borrow, you're paying back $20. That $20 turns is when you pay it back is $120. So for every $100 you borrow, you're paying back $120. That gets costly over time. That piles up over time. I haven't done a show on compounding, I don't think, in a while, but when you think about compounding and when 1 month you took out $120, the next month is going to be worth, or your debt's going to be worth, I don't know, $122 or $124 the next month. And this is assuming you haven't paid it off. The next month is going to be worth like $128. So that debt just climbs and climbs and climbs and climbs and grows and grows and grows. And so if you use credit to fund your emergencies, you really leave yourself open to continue in that debt cycle. So that's something I really, really don't recommend. But it got me thinking. I said, hey, let's have this conversation because we should be talking about this. Now, again, there may be times where you've used all your cash, something happened, and you have to go into your credit, into your line of credit or your credit cards or borrow from someone. But I think it's imprudent or unwise to do that as your strategy overall. I would recommend splitting. I would pay down the debt, and I would fund my opportunity fund with the cash as well. So I'll kind of do it all at the same time. But when you think about this, right, your average American, they say this last poll I read or the study I saw, said 58% of Americans have less than $1,000 in savings, but everybody's in debt. Everybody's in debt, and it really makes no sense, and it's really a detriment to people's wealth position as they grow older, and as they have more opportunities to do some things. It really hampers a lot of people sometimes when they want to buy a car or they want to buy a house. You can buy a car with cash, but it's really hard to buy a house with cash because typically you need credit to get a mortgage, unless you got a decent amount of cash put away, and the mortgage companies will typically work with you if you put down a higher down payment. But since 58% of Americans have less than $1,000, I wanted to talk about different ways to increase your emergency savings, or, like I said, like I like to call it, your opportunity fund. I mean, one thing I think we all should be doing is looking at ways to make more money, right? Anytime, I am not a part of the latte mafia. I don't bag on people who like to go to Starbucks or maybe eat out from time to time. But again, you have to know what season you're in. When it's winter, you need to wear a coat. If it's raining outside, you need your umbrella, meaning that you have to adjust to different seasons in your life. So sometimes you should eat at home. Sometimes you should make your coffee at home. And so you get to a better position where you can splurge a little bit more. But remember, all these things are splurges. They're not necessities. They're not needs. Most of these things are wants. But, I think we should all have an opportunity mindset or an abundance mindset in everything that we do in life. So if your savings are below $1,000, if your emergency fund is below $1,000, first thing you need to do is think about, how can I make more money? And again, I'm not saying this is going to happen overnight, but I do think those are the types of questions you have to ask yourself. The question shouldn't be, oh man, I'm in a terrible place right now. I owe $10,000 in credit card debt. The question should be is, how can I make more money so I can pay off my credit cards? Or how can I make more money so I can get out of debt? So questions are very powerful, and the way you frame questions are very powerful. My mother beaten to me. I can't think of this actual Bible verse, but I know it's Proverbs. And she would always say to me, life and death lies in the power of the tongue. And that's in Proverbs, really. So what you say has power. How you think has power. So ask yourself, how can you make more money? And so here's a couple of suggestions and ideas, right? If you work a job, can you ask for a raise? Can you get a raise? Can you work overtime? Think about that. I'm pretty sure you probably have thought about the overtime piece, but have you thought about asking for a raise? I know a lot of women, a lot of times, were very much underpaid. Much of it comes to them not negotiating upfront salary and also not being aggressive when it comes to asking for a raise. Now, when you go to ask for a raise, don't just say, boss, I want a raise because I come here every day and I deserve to get a raise. What I would suggest is, and you have to fine tune this for every environment, workplace you're in, but look at what you're doing. Look at the value you provide. Look at how much money you create or save, right? So how much money do you make the organization? How much money do you save the organization? How much time do you save the organization? And then start to craft the conversation and approach your supervisor and have those talking points in hand. So you can say, listen, I made the company $1 million over the last 6 months. And last year I had only done 500,000. Last year, the company spent, I don't know, $100,000 on this copier system. These are all examples, all hypotheticals. This year, I brought in a solution that saved us 20%, which is $20,000. And start having those conversations and show your value, prove your value. We can't just take for granted that people recognize our value. Now, I'm not saying you go in and be super duper over the top with this, but I do think you could have a conversation about this with your immediate direct report. All right. Other thing is, a while ago, I did an interview. I don't know if you guys saw it, with a buddy of mine who does eBay and Amazon selling. And he does pretty well with it. He does about 5 figures a year, and he works a full-time job as well. First thing he said was, sell the stuff in your house, right? And that was directed towards me because I wanted to learn how to sell on eBay. So find things around your house to sell. Most of us have things that we don't wear that have tags on them that's brand new in the closet that we don't need, to be totally honest with you. Sell those things. Have a yard sale, go to a flea market. You can sell them on eBay. And there's other sites as well, like Poshmark, which I haven't experimented with, and Macari, I believe it's called as well. So look at those things, sell them, and put that first $1,000 into your opportunity fund. It's better to have that in cash than to just have those material items hanging in the closet or sitting in the shelf. It's always better to have the cash on hand. Cash is king. All right. Don't forget that. Also, look at, again, selling other things out of your home. You can look at Facebook Marketplace as well. I've bought and sold things on there. Guess what? Craigslist still works. People still buy and sell things on Craigslist. I would also caution for things like Facebook Marketplace and for Craigslist, be very, very careful about who you're meeting and where you're meeting. And if it feels a little weird, don't do it. I've seen and heard of people getting robbed and hurt doing those type of things. But nevertheless, we're not focusing on the negative, we're focusing on the positive, but we're still going to be aware of everything that goes on, right? So I don't want anybody to say, I don't want to do this because I could get hurt. Well, you could get hurt walking outside every day. So, keep that in mind. Think about other ways of generating cash. Back in the day in my community, they used to have rent parties, fish fries, beef and bears, things like that. I would look at those and see if maybe you could do one of those. But any way that you can generate money. All right. Now, if you work a job 9 to 5, don't necessarily have a whole lot of time, don't have a whole lot of money, I find that everybody can kind of squeeze out $5. Oh, Ed told me years ago, if you just save $5, just start with $5, you can begin to create a nest egg for yourself. So if all you got is $5, just save that once a week or every time you get paid. Save something. One of the things that I do, I'm trying to see if I have it close by. I do. Is I have a change jar. It's a little light right now because I took it to deposit and gave some to my children. But that change jar has saved my life several times. When I was the primary caregiver for my oldest son, it was just me and him, and I was broke. I was again single primary caregiver for him, and school was broke. That thing was about 3/4 of the way high. There was thousands of dollars in there because what I would do was I would take the money out of my pocket, the change out of my pocket, and I would put it in there. It was like another way of savings. And every now and again, I'll put $1 in there. I put $5 in there. I put $20 in there, so forth and so on. And it accumulated, it added up. And so when I needed it, it was really there. It was right on time. We went and got some groceries, and I think I even took him out to dinner. But, that's just another way of saving money that anybody can do. I hear people sometimes say they don't have any money. All their money is enough. And I know there's a lot of people in bad positions. Don't get me wrong. And I feel for them. But I believe a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people have $5. A lot of people have spare change in their pocket that they could save and not spend. Most of us, a lot of times, again, we just overspend on things we don't need. Corporations spend billions of dollars a year, every year, figuring out how our psyche and our mind works to get us to spend. When you go to the supermarket, why is there candy there all the time? Why are the magazines there all the time? Because they're banking on your impulse spends. And I would bet candy sells in the supermarket. I know almost every time I'm in the supermarket, I buy some candy, and I don't need the extra weight. It's too much in sugar. But some other things you can do to make money. Start a side hustle. All right. If you have a gift or a talent, do that. If you know how to sew, make dresses, make suits. If you like to drive Uber, drive Lyft. There's Uber Eats. There's Amazon Flex. There's TaskRabbit. There's a lot of different things you can do out there. If you like to write, there's plenty of freelance writing opportunities right on the web. Right, there are plenty of opportunities. You just got to tune your mind to start getting on that frequency so you can find them. All right. Excuse me. So just think about that. I tell people all the time, I think a great business opportunity slash side hustle opportunity is cleaning. There are not a lot of quote unquote known, reputable, good cleaning people that are around, right? I always see people asking about, do you know if you have a good cleaning person? A lot of people are very, they don't want everybody in their home, right? They're a little testy about having people in their home, but they know they don't have time and they need their home cleaned. They need certain things done. Do that. I saw an article somewhere, I can't remember where it was, but there was a lady who did dog walking that made 6 figures a year. Now, I think she might have been someplace like New York or California, but the point being is that she was able to generate extra income. You can do the same thing in your local locale if you like dogs, obviously. If you're afraid of dogs, that ain't going to work for you. All right. But, just be open to trying different things, exploring different things, and seeing if there's other ways to make money. A mentor of mine told me something years ago that I live by to this day. A lot of people don't get it. It's a bit counterintuitive. He said to me, if you find yourself down and out, give. Now, I've seen him give that speech. I give that talk, and it always puzzles people, right? But I know I've done it myself, and it's always helped. But I'm a natural giver. Anyway, that's part of the reason why I do these, so I can be helpful. I like to be helpful. But there is something about giving, about putting out positive energy, and I'm not trying to be too woo-woo, but putting out good karma in the world that, one, helps you feel good about yourself, right? And it just gets things flowing. And so anytime you're in a crunch, give. Give as much as you can. And guess what? Giving does not always have to be money. You can give your time, talent, or treasure. Time, talent, or treasure. All right. And you would be surprised at how it comes back. One, they say your attitude determines your altitude, right? So if you feel better about yourself, if you've helped somebody out and you're like, man, that's a great feeling, that then reflects in your overall attitude. So you can see different things and approach things in a different way. I know, you can say give, right, / free. I have this conversation a lot. There are a lot of people who don't believe in free, who don't want to do things for free. I think everybody should do something for free. Can't do it all the time. Can't necessarily give your highest product or service out. But can you say hello to somebody? That's free. If you see somebody that's down and out, can you give them $1? That's free. Can you volunteer at a worthy nonprofit? That's free. Right? All those things make you feel good. Can you volunteer at a friend's business? Can you help them out? That's free. Guess what? The networking effect on that is exponential. I know I've worked at nonprofits and I made many connections and contacts that have turned into business. Now, I'm going to say this. You should not give with the expectation of getting back. You should not give with the expectation of getting back. But that's just one of the laws of the universe, right? Reciprocity. What goes out comes back in. So again, you can make the case for free. Now, I'm not making the case for stupid. I'm not making a case for you just giving away everything to some crooks, to some people who are not worthy of it, but give to something that, again, is bona fide and worthy. If your friend has a good business and you're a good graphic designer and they need some flyers, help them with the layout, help them with the design. That goes a long way. I know I've donated time to help people set up books, their bookkeeping with businesses. I've done that. And it helped them a lot. I can't do that all the time because it's very time consuming. But from time to time, I will do that, especially if it's somebody I think is doing a great work in the community as well. So again, think about those things. All right. Make sure you're saving. Make sure you have your opportunity fund / your emergency fund, and think about different ways that you can be creative with making money. I mean, again, you don't just have to go to work and work a 9 to 5 to make money. There's all different kinds of ways of making money. You'll be surprised at how many people are making money online selling used iPhones. This is an old iPhone I have here. They're selling iPhones on eBay. They're selling Androids on eBay. Again, go through your house and find the stuff that you don't use, because your trash is another man's treasure. All right. So if you got any value out of this, or if there's anybody you think will get value out of this, share this with them. Share with one person you think will get value out of this. That's a form of giving, by the way. Again, Kamari Ellis out. If you have any questions, right, feel free to text me, 484-278-1357, 484-278-1357. Hit me up, and I'll do my best to address them and answer those questions. All right. Everybody have a wonderful day. I'll talk to you next time. See you in the next video. Kamari Ellis out.